You're 16, standing in the quiet of your grandfather's garage. In your hand is the stinger of a Lincoln tombstone welder he bought for $578 at the local hardware store. In front of you, a dull piece of scrap angle iron. This is where it starts. 12 years later, you'll be sealed inside a steel chamber no bigger than a city bus, breathing manufactured air 400 feet under the North Sea. Your pay stub for one day will read $2,710. Between that garage and that chamber is a trade where the on-the-job death rate runs about 40 times the average American job. It's called underwater welding, and the welding itself is maybe 10% of it. The other 90% is a test of nerve and endurance most people fail. This is the whole career of an underwater welder in America, level by level in what it actually costs, in dollars and in everything else. If you want to see what the world's hardest jobs really demand, like this video and subscribe to Levels Deep, a new one every week. Level 1, the garage. You're 16. The Lincoln tombstone sits on a rusty rolling cart in the back corner. You've watched hours of videos learning the sound of a good weld, the one people compare to frying bacon. You clamp the ground to a patch of steel you've cleaned of rust. You turn the amperage to about 90. You drop the hood and the world goes green dark. You scratch the electrode against the metal like striking a huge, stubborn match. The arc catches, violent and bright. The rod sticks to the plate. You jerk your wrist to break it loose. There's a coppery, silicone taste in your mouth, left over from the scuba regulator you'd been chewing at the community pool that morning. You slow down. You drag the rod, trying to hold a steady weave. You chip the glassy slag off with a cheap Harbor Freight hammer. The bead is a mess, a lumpy, crooked worm that lost the fight. Your grandfather wanders over without a word. He looks at the scarred angle iron. Amperage is too high. That's all he says. You drop it to 70 and try again. The second bead is straighter. He gives you one small nod and goes back to his coffee. It feels like a medal. You lose track of time under the fluorescent buzz. 3 weekends later, your parents take a trip to Key Largo and you spend $400 of lawn mowing money on a PADI open water course. The first test is in the hotel pool. You flood your mask on purpose, feel the water go up your nose, and clear it the way you were taught. You recover your regulator. You do a fin pivot on the bottom of the deep end, and for a second, you're weightless. On your third open water dive, a reef shark slides under the boat. Instead of fear, you grin around the mouthpiece. Back on the dock, the dive master signs your logbook. Your certification card shows up 8 weeks later in a paper sleeve, and you tuck it in your wallet behind your new learner's permit. The smell of chlorine and sunscreen off that pool deck stays with you longer than any photo from the trip. You're 18 and the foreman at a local fab shop takes a chance on you at $16 an hour. Your title is helper. That means grinding bevels on quarter-inch plate and sweeping a floor worth more than every house on your childhood street. You're first in, making coffee, and last out, chipping slag. The hiss of argon off the Miller MIG welders is the shop's heartbeat. The locker room smells like a permanently damp Carhartt. The foreman shows you the sequence for a butt joint. Mark the plate with soapstone. Grind the mill scale off with a flap disc until the steel gleams. Cut a 30-degree bevel on each edge. Set the root gap with a nickel laid flat between the pieces. Tack at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. Run the root pass with a 7018 rod, arc tight and controlled. Chip the slag. Run the hot pass. One afternoon, he runs his thumb along the cap of your weld, looks at it, looks at you, and says one word: clean. You pocket it and don't tell anyone. Friday, your check clears at $640 after taxes. You cash it at the credit union and put $400 in cash into a worn envelope. On the front, you've written 2 words: Dive school. The customer pays the shop $94 an hour for the booth you're standing in. You make $16. The math is simple, and it's why you keep going. One day the foreman pulls you aside by the bay door. "The only ticket out of this room," he says, pointing back at the shop, "is a 5-month program down in Jacksonville. Then, and listen, the women you'll meet at 26 won't wait around while you figure your life out." You stop saving your pay stubs after that. You just add them up and watch the envelope grow. You're 19. You stand in a bank and wire $14,800 to CDA Technical Institute in Jacksonville, Florida, and sign loan papers for the rest. 20 weeks, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, in an industrial yard that smells permanently of sulfur and diesel. The first morning, an instructor named Matthew Thomas, who carries himself like the former life support tech he is, walks your class to a 30-foot training tank and a shelf of Kirby Morgan helmets. "My job is to teach you to do work underwater," he says. "Now dress in. Hatting up has 10 steps, and you'll do it 400 times before Thomas signs you off. It becomes muscle memory. Comms check. Pull the sticky neck dam over your head. Lower the helmet onto the neck ring. Latch the yoke strap. Lock the clamp. Gas on. Breathe the cool, dry air. Defog and steady flow check. Thumbs up to your tender. Step off the stage. Leaving surface. Your first chamber blowdown is a rite of passage. The instructor packs the class into a dry hyperbaric chamber, a steel tube they call a quote-unquote dry pot, to simulate a deep dive. He's taking you to 165 feet. Your ears lock up hard at 60. A sharp pain builds behind your eyes. You valsalva, swallow, wiggle your jaw. Nothing. Then your left ear cracks open with a wet pop and the relief is instant. You don't say a word. You ride it all the way down. Week 9. In the tank, you light a Broco BR-22 cutting torch for the first time. A cloud of furious bubbles and a sulfur burn so strong it punches through the helmet's exhaust valve. Nothing in your grandfather's garage smelled like this. Week 14. You weld a Class B coupon, fighting the drag of the water with every move using waterproofed electrodes. An inspector with the AWSD 3.6M codebook, the Bible of underwater work, passes you on the first try. The rest is relentless. OSHA Subpart T regs you'll forget within a year. Dye physics, hyperbaric medicine, gas chemistry, decompression tables. The rigging math that keeps a deck crane from killing a tender topside. Of the 27 who started, 22 are left at graduation. The school posts a 90% placement rate, 204 of 227 the previous year. Your ADCI entry-level tender/diver card costs a $75 application fee. You staple a copy to the back of your resume. You drive home with a box of dirty boots and a certificate on the passenger seat. 3 weeks later, your mother has framed the certificate over the dryer. The dream you had in the garage is gone, and something harder has taken its place. You stop arguing with foremen, not because they're always right, but because arguing marks you as a greenhorn who doesn't know what's at stake yet. You're 20. A Louisiana inshore outfit hires you as a tender for $21.71 an hour. Day 1, they hand you a 5-gallon bucket of dish soap and a brush and point you at a Kirby Morgan Superlight to scrub until the neck dam stops smelling like another man's sweat. You spool 300 feet of umbilical onto a reel by hand. You haul the exhaust hose. You learn the comms console on a Bullard headset, listening to the diver breathe, learning to anticipate him. By week 3, you know every line in the umbilical by feel. Gas, comms, pneumo, hot water, strength member. You stand 14-hour deck watches in insulated Carhartt bibs and never get wet. Diesel exhaust lives in your beard now. Every shackle on the boat is the same rust red. Your break comes in month 6, a pile wrap on a clarifier in Homa. The supervisor points at you. You're up. The crew suddenly gets very busy pretending not to watch the rookie. You dress in, heart going hard. You climb down the slimy pile in zero visibility, working entirely by feel. You wire brush a 4-foot band of marine growth. You can taste the rust through the exhaust. You measure the pile with a length of paracord, wrestle the FRP jacket into place, hand set the band straps, tighten the ratchets. The grout injects clean. You come up with your umbilical managed and your comms calm. The supervisor logs your first working dive. On the ride back, you sit quiet in the cab, and he pretends not to notice that either. 2 weeks later, you hear the news. A rival outfit, Coastal Gunite, sent a 47-year-old diver into 19 feet of water on his first day, a test dive at the William B. Umstead Bridge in North Carolina. The man went unresponsive. OSHA later cited the company for 4 serious violations and a penalty of about $40,329. You read the area director's statement over and over that making sure workers are physically fit to dive is a basic part of safety. You put the phone face down on the mattress. You don't call your mother back that night. The next morning, you apply for your ADCI air diver card. It costs $175, a clean and careful logbook, and your supervisor's signature. You get it. The air diver. You're 25. A Gulf of Mexico outfit flies you out to a dive support vessel home-ported in Port Fourchon for a 28-day hitch. 2-person cabin, 4 meals a day from a galley crew. The first dive is to a wellhead at 180 feet to swap a sacrificial anode. You wear a Kirby Morgan you don't own. The company owns the hat. You own your harness, your knife, and your reputation. You learn fast that wet welding is, at most, 10% of what an underwater welder does. The rest is brushing, bolting, swapping anodes, torquing flanges, hot taps, and marking inspection points for the NDT Tech topside. Almost all of it by feel, in near zero visibility. Conserving effort isn't about efficiency. It's what keeps you alive on the gas budget your supervisor planned. Day 11. You run a Class B wet stick weld on a pipeline patch. You needle gun the marine growth off the joint, set the polarity, tack the patch in 4 places, strike the root pass with a hydro-weld rod, chip, cap, wire brush, flag the inspection point with a mag marker for the surface tech. Your supervisor's voice comes through the speaker with one word. Good. Your day rate works out to about $400, plus depth pay of $2 a foot. Today that's another $360, so $760 for the shift. You watch your account climb faster than you can spend it. A few hitches in, you check the numbers. The May 2023 Federal Wage Survey counts about 2,790 commercial divers in the whole country, with a mean wage of $75,570. You're on track to clear $90,000 in a slow year. The industry fatality report sits on a tablet in your bunk. You never open it. In October, a hurricane comes up the Gulf. The supervisor pulls you out 11 minutes into a job because the current is stronger than you are. You don't argue. A couple of trips later, the company asks if you want to go to SAT school. The room where you say yes has a broken coffee maker and a calendar 2 months out of date. You miss Thanksgiving for the 3rd year running. Your sister sends a photo of the family at the table and you pin it over your bunk. Somewhere around the 7th month, you notice you've stopped flinching at the hot sticks. You're 28. Subsea 7 puts you on the 7 Atlantic, a saturation vessel with a twin bell system built at the IHC Merveed Yard in 2009, rated to 350 meters, 24 divers locked in a pressurized steel world. Day 1, you blow down on heliox, helium and oxygen, to a storage depth of 400 feet where you'll live for 28 days. Your voice comes out a high cartoon squawk. You sound like Donald Duck, unintelligible to anyone outside without a descrambler. The air has a sweet plastic helium smell. The white noise hum of the gas reclaim fades out of your hearing by day 4. You sleep in a bunk with a TV bolted to the bulkhead. You'll read 3 novels this trip. Meals come through a small medical lock. At 0600, you climb into the bell with 2 other divers. Lock off from the habitat, and the launch system lowers you through the moon pool to the sea floor. The bellman opens the bottom hatch, and you lock out into total darkness. 6 hours bolting a subsea manifold. You torque flange bolts to spec and fit a heavy tie-in spool. The hot water suit pumps warmth through tiny capillaries against your skin, holding off cold that would otherwise kill you. Heliox feeds through the mask inside your helmet. You lock back into the bell. Shower in the cramped trunk. Eat, sleep, repeat. One source puts the average American sat diver around $123,000 a year, but you're in the North Sea, and the 2026 union schedule sets a saturation day rate of $2,710. You cash the wire. Day 21. In the bell on a routine run, a story from dive school comes back to you. Chris Lemons, North Sea, September 2012, the Bibby Topaz. The vessel's positioning system failed, and his umbilical was severed at about 330 feet. He had a roughly 5-minute bailout bottle. He survived more than 30 minutes on the seafloor because his crew, Duncan Alcock and Dave Uasa, got the bell back over him in time. You finish your bolt up. You lock back in. Decompression at the end takes 6 full days of mandatory stops. There's no emergency exit. On day 26, a voice from the squawk box tells you your uncle has died in Mississippi. You can do nothing. You finish your decompression. When you surface, your truck keys are waiting in an envelope at the topside office. You step off the bell pad, walk to the lot, and the truck starts on the first turn. The old Lincoln tombstone is still in the garage. Your grandfather passed 2 years ago, and your father couldn't sell it. It's under a dusty tarp on the same cart. The dust on the hood is exactly as thick as the night before you left for Jacksonville. You drive home to Pensacola, sleep for 36 hours, and on the 3rd day, you pull the tarp off. The amperage dial is still set to 70. You clamp a piece of scrap angle iron. You strike an arc. The bead comes out clean. The bacon sizzle is the same sound it was when you were 16. You chip the slag with the same cheap Harbor Freight hammer. You think about your cousin who went to college and wonder what he made last year. Then you stop the thought. That's not the comparison anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. A kid from your old high school texts you. He's thinking about dive school and wants to know if it's really worth the $14,800. You think for a second, then write back one sentence. 3 rules. Show up, don't quit, don't lie on the logbook. The trade gave you a knee that clicks in the cold and a row of Thanksgivings you'll never get back. You took that deal the morning you signed your second saturation contract. You walk into the house. The Patty card from Key Largo is still in your wallet, behind your license. The Tombstone Welder is yours now. The truck keys hang on the hook by the door. Those are yours too. And for everything it costs, you know you earned them. If this one was worth your time, like it and subscribe to Levels Deep. We break down what it really takes to climb in the world's toughest jobs, one every week.